right, welcome today to the this episode of We Are Indigenous podcast. I'm Dan Kennedy, your host, and we have some special guests today with us today from Vancouver. Some Juno nominated artists, the hip hop duo Snotty Nose Rez Kids. We have Young D and Young Tribes. I get the names right?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, just kind of start us off. Can you share a little bit about who you guys are? What you do in terms of like hip hop, anything like that. Just if you have any new fans or people that are just kind of want to know a little bit more about you, then we can go from there.
Yeah, so me and Trabs, we both grew up in the Haisla Nation.
Yeah,
that's in Northwest BC. Yeah, like around the Prince Rupert Terrace area. We're in the Inlet Coast, and yeah, we legit grew up like 5 minutes away from each other.
Yeah,
and like both of our moms and dads are like just open arms.
Yeah,
because like we've been childhood friends.
Okay, so you guys
since we were Snotty Nose Rez Kids.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Kind of like a lot of like Indigenous communities. Like ours was really tight knit.
Yeah.
And we've been like writing music since we were in elementary school. So we've been writing music, writing songs, writing poetry, stuff like that. We've always been writers. Like our people are traditionally storytellers, so that's kind of the background that we come from as well.
Yeah.
And hip hop and like our Indigenous cultures kind of go hand in hand. So it was very natural for us to fall into like the lead of being MCs and being storytellers for our people.
Yeah.
And when we grew up, there wasn't a whole lot of like mentors and stuff for us to look up to outside of our community in terms of like Indigenous hip hop artists and stuff like that. Not because they weren't there, but because we weren't exposed to them. Mm-hmm. There was no like social media. There wasn't anything like that for us to like look at people outside of our community. So as we got older, we started seeing like there was like Winnipeg's Most, Jesus Hellenbeck, all those kind of guys that are out there doing their thing, and we realized, oh shit, we can actually do this as a career,
Yeah. So for you guys growing up, what were you guys always into hip hop at a young age? Yeah, it was like kind of the music genre you kind of fell into.
Yeah, definitely.
So who would be artists that you guys looked up to, like in terms of the hip hop rap music game and anything like that?
Yeah.
Well,
like for me, the first album that I ever got was the Eminem Show.
Yeah.
I was like 10 years old. I had to beg my mom to get it.
Yeah.
But it was definitely Eminem. I always hung around guys that were older than me, so I'd be like 12 years old hanging out with 15, 17-year-olds, right? And they all bumped like Tupac, Biggie. So we grew up heavy on the 90s, and during high school in like the 2000s, I would say a lot of Southern hip hop.
Yeah.
That I loved.
In the later years, for sure.
Yeah, and like Atlanta in particularly.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I remember bumping a lot of T.I., like Young Jeezy.
Yeah.
Outkast,
and even like Texas too, right?
Yeah. Slim Thug.
Yeah, Slim Thug, Paul Wall, all those guys.
Mike Jones.
Yeah.
Do you still remember the number?
No, I don't.
I actually seen someone just comment that on like a Facebook thread. Like
I think I remember it. 281
330
8004. Yeah. Hit Mike Jones up on the low. No, that's awesome because it's because you kind of talked about it. Like you didn't really know. Like there's not, and that's the thing I really like about you guys because I think for the most part, growing up when you would hear like Indigenous or First Nation hip hop guys, they like some of them weren't the best, and it was kind of more of like just like the basic like my name is It wasn't really like it's like because influence-wise, like hip-hop is like, for me, it was always the States. Like I grew up, I was a border kid, so I grew up on the Canadian-U.S. border. My dad like grew up in Detroit. He worked in Detroit his entire life, so I was always influenced by like American culture, right? And so for me, it was like growing up was like Eminem, right? Yeah. And then just like Tupac, Biggie, and like you, I had older cousins, so like my first album though wasn't a hip-hop album, but I remember I did have to beg my mom for it. It was I don't know if I should. It was TLC, Crazy Sexy Cool. And so, I think I like it a little bit. But for me, it was like always kind of that influence. And even for who I am today, it's like I'm still really influenced by all those guys. And
of course.
That's cool that you brought up like the Atlanta hip hop and Southern hip hop because like I just seen this. I just remember that video. I just everything floats on Facebook. They showed that video when I think it was the Source Awards or whatever when Outkast won like New Artist of the Year. and everyone booed them. Like, they were booing them because Southern hip hop wasn't even like a thing when Outkast first came out. And like Andre 3000, like that's the thing. People don't realize how good Andre 3000 is, right? Because he's not around anymore. Like he's insane. He is an icon. But he went on stage and everyone was kind of booing him, and he's like, all right. He's like, if this is how you guys want to be, like you guys don't know about the South, like you're about to find out. And guys from like Atlanta said like that was like the moment that like changed for them to be like, oh yeah, we're on the map now. And you just think of all the artists and like the history now behind it. And that's a kind of cool thing for me of like Apple Music is like the curated playlist. Yeah. So there's like one that's this Atlanta hip hop playlist.
Yeah.
And
was that the same award show when he was like the South got something to say?
Yeah, that's one. That's the one. I screwed up. The South got something to say. Yeah, that was the one. That. And it's just like, for me, it's like, yeah, I think that's cool. Like, but that's like hip hop, right? You got kind of same influence, right? And it's such like a thing that's so, it belongs to like North America, right?
Yeah.
For the most part, where it's history. Yeah, so a little bit more kind of your influences. What was it kind of like growing up? What was the name of the community you guys are from?
We're from the Haisla Nation.
The Haisla Nation?
Yeah,
okay.
Kitimat Village.
So what was like growing up in that area for you guys? Was it, upbringing wise? Was it,
Yeah, it
good,
was.
Bad?
Yeah, it was good. It was good as far as like what the conception of like First Nations reservations are in Canada. It was a really good reservation. Like there's not a whole lot of people that are in like a whole lot of poverty or anything like that. It was good for us growing up, and we had a lot of family members that supported us through whatever the hell we did. Through it was basketball, soccer, hip hop. Mm-hmm. Traveling, whatever, like when someone has to do something, the community comes together and makes sure that they get that done, that they go and do what they have to do. So like the community supported us through. We grew up playing basketball together, and our community is like a really big basketball community. So if we ever had to go to a tournament, there'd be like fundraisers put on by the community to make sure that we get to these tournaments, stuff like that. So for us growing up, it was always good, like a lot of support within our community.
Yeah.
And also on top of that, the territory that we're on, we're on the west coast of BC, on northwest coast, and in our backyard we have like the ocean, we have the river, and we have like a massive forest surrounding us where we can hunt from our lands, we can fish from our lands, we can berry pick from our lands. So I grew up with the background of being able to survive off our lands. My dad's a hunter. He gets up every morning. He's retired now, so that's what he does like pretty much every day. And my mom does like everything that she has to do in the smokehouse, stuff like that. And it's Oolican season time now too. So for us as Haisla people, Oolikans, do you know what those are? They're like a little fish that was like, it's like in all of our rivers, and it's a staple for our people on the northwest coast there. And they're being harvested right now as we speak. So like they're up the Nass River right now, and they'll be up the Kitlow pretty soon. And that's a big time. I might be going home for that if I have time at the end of this month to go and harvest with them and stuff like that. But that's kind of like the kind of like community that we were raised in.
So it was like, so the big industry out there would it be fishing? Was it a lot of commercial fishermen, or you say your dad's retired?
Industry out there is kind of like, there's a lot going on. Like there was Methanex, Uralcan, Alcan, which are like industries that came into our community that the white community or the non-Indigenous community was built off of. Yeah. So there's a town like 10 minutes outside of our reservation, which is called Kitimat as well. And the town has been built on this aluminum smelter. You guys know of Alcan, right? Like aluminum foil, Alcan.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like one of the biggest aluminum smelters in the world, and our community is like raised around industry. So right now we're actually like in a battle of not in a battle, like our community is partnered with LNG Canada, which has really like put us in a divide out there, trying to figure out not where we stand, but like who's standing with us on the fight against industry coming through our communities and like forcing us to believe that the only way out of poverty is through the destruction of our lands, which is not true. Yeah. But yeah, so like coming from an industry-built community, it's hard for us to it's weird.
And yeah, like with the industry being like the backbone of Kitimat, it's really easy to get like that small town mentality to like, oh, once I graduate high school, I gotta work. I'm gonna go work at this plant or try to get a job at this plant. And a lot of people, they get too comfortable. You know, that's their comfort zone, and they don't want to leave their comfort zone because that town is all they know.
Yeah.
Like labor work's the only option.
Yeah.
Which is not true, and we're trying to like break that mentality, that state of mind, you know.
And so for you guys, what was it that made you guys like, I don't want to just be at home in the labor camp? Like, was it parents pushing you to like, further education
Actually,
or other things?
it's
or
weird
was it,
because my dad was a tradesman. He's a Red Seal heavy duty mechanic. So I was actually going to school, and when Darren went to school for his audio and engineering program in Vancouver.
Okay.
And he took that program, and I was in school at the same time taking my first year of mechanics. And before that, I worked on a site in Kitimat, which was like, they were like prepping for like the buildup of LNG or whatever. I was young. And I worked there for a while, and I got maybe 4 years of like service work in there. And then I went to school to be a mechanic, and this is around the time that he went to school for the audio and engineering thing. And then we made a mixtape, and it like took off.
Yeah.
And around that time when I was going to school for that, I was like, fuck, I don't even know if I want to do this. I don't know if I want to be a mechanic anymore. And this is kind of what like pushed us into the direction of being rappers. Like we already had like that mindset. I come from a line of land protectors. Mm-hmm. And being able to put that kind of stuff on wax, on record, and have people like really resonate with what we were saying and come together for a movement that we're a part of, it really like changed my way of thinking and like my way of like being. Yeah. And I realized, you know what, I don't have to work for the man. I can do my own thing. And that's kind of like what we're trying to like portray now.
Yeah. For me, it was like when I graduated high school, my mom was just like, I'm going to tell you the same thing I told your brother. You're either going to get a job or you're going to keep going to school. You're not going to sit around the house and do fuck all. Yeah. I was like, I don't want to go to work. I'm going to go to school, you know.
So, and then for you, was it just you always had like the love of music, and you're like, oh, I was just gonna.
Yeah, definitely. You could actually read in my elementary book in grade 7.
Yeah.
It's like, what do you want to do after high school? I wrote, I want to go to university and play college ball, or make a living off making music.
Yeah.
So,
that's awesome.
Yeah. It's like, and then it was like 2015 when I took that program. Mm-hmm. And then right after we finished that program, we just started working on our first album.
So your first album was the self-titled album. Second one, The Average Savage. What was it? The self-titled album? Was that the mixtape?
That was our first LP. The mixtape was before that, and it was called The Youngin' Experience.
Your music and the lyrics is like, there's a lot of like politically, charged themes to it. And then just speaking with a person that has worked with you guys previously, and just he kind of gave me a broad overview of like First Nation people in BC, and for me, it's really fascinating to like see is that you guys are unceded, right? And there's with that, you guys almost have like so much more political sway than what other,
Because we got title and rights and title to like, our territories.
My Colin Van Leeuwen, who's worked with you guys before and worked with your guys and making music videos. He talks about his this elder he has, his elder Jerry. And he'll be like, they'll be driving and like they'll be at a crosswalk, and he's like, white people be like walking across a little bit slower than he's like, tell these white people get out of the way, we're the landowners and all this stuff. So for me, it's cool to see because we don't like we'll have the protests and all that stuff, but it out there it seems like you guys actually really get your say. And so. Growing up, have you guys always had that kind of engraved in you, like that idea of like we need to like always fight for our sovereignty and like we are the landowner. So when things like this, like you talked about like the extracting resources for you guys, like no, we know that there's life more than this, so this is our duty to do this, right? Yeah,
I mean, so like I said, I come from a line of land protectors, right? So my uncle Gerald Amos, he was one of the ones who led the way in protecting the Great Bear Rainforest, which is the Kilo. And without the work that he put in with the people that he worked with, that would have been all logged. Like that territory is saved because of a line of people that I come from, and the family that I come from. And a while back, my Uncle Morris, like he was defending our hereditary chiefs, and in a case where they were fighting for their rights and title as hereditary leaders of our community. And like those kind of people like really influenced me into the way to the way that I believe and the person that I am today. And without that, I don't think like we would even be here with you right now. Like we would have a different way of thinking. Like we would just be like sheep, like the rest. Not like the rest, but like some people. And also like our territories are, like you said, they're unceded, and we are the rights and title holders of those lands. So, like you said, the pipeline that's coming through right now, that's coming through, and there's no consent from the hereditary leaders. There's consent from band councils, but band councils are only controlled of reservations, which are not even in line with like the pipeline that's coming through those communities, which is like super weird. But like, with that said, being like in the unceded territories and us talking about what we talk about, we got a whole lot of people that rally behind us, and a whole lot of people that rally behind the movements that they're already fighting for.
Yeah. So can you talk a little bit more about that? You said that, because we kind of have that thing here with like, there's, you got the hereditary chiefs, and then you got chief and council, right, which is all falls under Indian Act. And over here we have, with Haudenosaunee people, we have Longhouse, and there's like the whole system of hereditary chiefs and clan mothers and all that. And it does divide communities. So you said, so where you guys live, is it a First Nation like reserve, or is there a chief and council there then too?
Totally.
Is there a divide even in the community with like, well, some people go with chief and council, say some people go with the hereditary chiefs,
totally.
Or do they work like together?
Like it's like throughout communities through BC, it seems to me like, for the most part, it seems like they have different beliefs. Like chief and council is more of a colonial mindset and a business mindset in terms of, especially where we come from. Like they're trying to get LNG to come through our community, which is not in the best interest of our people and future generations. It's in the interest of people today, like right now.
Yeah.
In terms of like the society that we live in, to get cash right now, get paid out. So they're not looking for the interest of our people that are like 7 generations down the line, because if that pipeline comes through our community, like there's like a lot of risk in like us losing everything that we have. And for us to be unceded, we need to be able to survive off of our lands, because once we can't survive off of our lands, those rights are forfeited to the Canadian government. So if we can't harvest fish, we can't harvest moose, we can't harvest deer, we can't harvest berries off of our lands, we can't drink the water off our lands, then we forfeit our unceded rights to those lands. That's no longer unceded. They have to take that land from us. So that's what we're fighting for right now. And like, so I don't know about like, I can't speak for a lot of like all the communities and all like the chief and council versus like hereditary leaders, but I know in our community, especially in the past, it has been very divided to the point where our chief and council have taken our hereditary leaders to court and fighting for that or against that. Yeah. To figure out who's the real leader of our community.
Yeah. And what has that done to the communities itself?
It's definitely like caused a lot of like tension and like, it hasn't been good for sure. Like, it caused a lot of divide. So this was like something like 10 years ago or something like that when that was going on. But to me, there's still a lot of tension in our community through them bringing in like the LNG partnering with LNG Canada, and it's created a lot of like division and silence. It's really silencing the voices like mine and Darren's and people that are not like pro LNG, because we're not pro LNG. But there's not a whole lot. They don't leave the people that are pro LNG don't leave a whole lot of room for debate or for meaningful debate against it, because there's so many loud voices in our community right now that are for that.
Yeah, and I feel like it's our job to speak for those that are silenced. You know, like, and you'll really hear it on this upcoming album. Yeah. And like, there's a reason why we called it TRAPLINE. You know, it's like, it's hard not to get frustrated talking about this because it just hits so close to home. But, you know, we are never shy about sharing our political views. You know, we've made songs for Standing Rock. We did one for like Tiny House Warriors to show our support and use the platform that we have. And because this is happening in our backyard, people kind of looking at us like we're turning the other cheek, when that's not the case. If anything, like, it amplifies our stance.
There's also a lot more to it than that. Like, there's a lot of there's a lot of, I don't know how to explain it, but there's like a lot of like, you got to be careful what you say. Yeah. But at the same time, it's we're gonna get our message out there for sure through the album.
Well, that's like the a lot of it when it comes to talking about Indigenous and First Nation issues, right? It's like there's multi layers to it, and there's a word I always use. It's complex, right? And then when you're explaining it to people, you're just kind of like you said, you just get that frustration, and you're almost just like, it's just so complex. I don't even know how to fathom to speak on it because there's just so many different layers and things like that. So for you guys, what are hopes, or what is your message for young people? Like, that idea of like, you don't want them to be going towards, which I agree, like you don't want them to just become this small-minded, like, I'm just gonna go to work at the plant or whatever. But so what would you want young people, like, what is their future envision for them?
For me, like, is to just, like, everybody's born with a gift. You know what I mean? Like, I truly believe that. And it's up to the individual to figure out what that gift is. And once you figure out what it is, like, run with it. And, like, don't look back. Don't settle. And
also, like, we're like the 7th generation right now. And the youth that are coming up after us, like, they're the 7th generation. And I see a lot of, like, youth in communities that we visit, even in Ontario, all the way down to, like, the BC coast and the west coast of Canada. And all these kids, if there's anything that they have, it's a voice. And it's, like, really empowering to us and inspiring to us to go through these communities and see something that we never had growing up, like something that wasn't there in us. There's a fire inside of them. And for them to be so young and to be so politically charged and so, like, for their people, for their lands, like taking stands and doing protests against fish farms, against pipelines, stuff like that. And these are their way of thinking. It's not someone else putting that into their brains or into their minds. It's them literally, like, having that way of thinking and having that power to them. And seeing that really is like, there's a future for our people that has nothing to do with, like, the Canadian government or this way of living, which is, like, for us, like what we talked about, industry. So, like, they're gonna find their way. They're gonna figure out what they need to be.
So then for you guys, it was that idea of, like, using your gift. So when you went to school for the music, what was the move like to Vancouver? Like, how far is Kitimat from Vancouver? Is that where you guys first went, or were you guys somewhere
else? It's like 1,600 kilometers.
Yeah.
A good 18-hour drive.
Yeah? Yeah. And so what was, like, that transition from home, community, family, everybody knew growing up? Did you guys move down together, or was it separate?
I moved first. My partner lives in Vancouver. I've been with her for like 5 years now. Yeah. And she's got like the people that she surrounds herself with, that I eventually surrounded myself with, they're really, like, powerful Native people. And it wasn't until, like, I met her that we seen some Native performers. You know JB, the First Lady? I seen them perform at the York Theatre, and it was a sold-out show. And I was like, wow, like, this is something that we could do. I got outside the theater at the end of that show, and I called Darren up. And he answered, and I was like, yo, I just seen some Natives performing at this theater in Vancouver. It was a sold-out show. I was like, we got to start doing this, taking this shit for real, like, seriously. Yeah. And it wasn't until then that, until, like, he moved down to Vancouver, and I already kind of had a community set around me by that time. He moved down, like, maybe 2 years after I did. And I had, I was in a community by then. And when we started doing shows and stuff out in Vancouver, it really felt like we were doing shows back home, because, like, those were our people, and those still are people today.
Yeah. For me, like, it was weird. Like, after high school, I went to university for a bit, and I was in Prince George. It's, like, northern central BC. And it's, like, I don't know, maybe 60, 70,000 there. So, like, I lived there for 4 years. I moved back home, and then I moved back. Not moved back, but I moved to Vancouver for the music program, right? And I grew up watching this movie Big, you know, Big with Tom Hanks. Yeah. So I was always fascinated by city lights and all that, right? So I remember, like, the first time I moved down, it wasn't so much like a culture shock, but it was just like, wow, like, I'm finally living here in the city. Then after about, like, a month, I'm just like, you know, it's home. It's the city, so.
And then for that move in the city, you said you kind of had the community. What is, like, the community like for First Nation people in Vancouver? Is it multi-little communities, or is it, like, you guys, or is it kind of like a res? You, like, everyone knows each other. And,
exactly.
Which
it's
is
a massive
good
community.
And bad at the same time. Like, for things.
Yeah. It's a big community. Like, I was actually surprised. I think, to be honest, like, the community that we're a part of, like, an arts community. So like all of our friends are artists, and it seems like the arts community, not only in Vancouver but across Canada, is very small. I know everyone, like at least from like Toronto, Ontario to BC, like that seems like that's our circle now. After we started this whole Snotty Nose Rez Kids. So Vancouver in itself is a really small community, but it's all of Vancouver, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
It just seems like all of like Western Canada, I guess from like Toronto to BC is like a very small knit like community. As far as like the arts goes.
Yeah.
Everyone knows everyone, especially social media and stuff like that out there
like,
now.
well,
everyone knows everyone's business.
Yeah, separation of like 6 degrees of separation.
Exactly.
You're like, yeah.
Yeah. So that's kind of like how Vancouver is too. Or like one of our friends, Kim Mortal, just had a show last night, and the whole community showed up for it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, stuff like that.
Yeah, like they all like uplift each other.
Yeah.
You know, like there's no crabs in the bucket.
Yeah.
Yeah,
awesome.
totally.
Yeah.
So for you guys, what would you think was kind of the when you guys made the albums? What was like the leaping point for you guys to kind of gain a recognition and following, or was it already kind of created with that community thing, and then everyone just like it's just to come up and everyone's like,
it was kind of it was kind of already like building. Like after we made that mixtape that Darren was talking about, the Youngin Experience, it was actually his project, but I was featured on it. After we made that, we did some shows and stuff like that. Like I said, we were doing those open mics and people were turning out to those. And then we did a few shows outside of that. One was with Talking Stick exactly like 3 years ago, from like 2 weeks ago, like 3 years ago. And it was like a packed house, but like a very small venue. Mm-hmm. But like all of Vancouver came out, and when we were putting those songs out, like everyone was paying attention to what we were doing. Yeah. So when we made Snotty Nose Rez Kids, the very first LP that we came out with, we really like got into what we were going through as people before artists. Like I lost a brother to suicide around that time, and it wasn't until we wrote Snotty Nose Rez Kids album and got all that off of our chests and onto wax and put it out into the world that I finally felt relieved of all that pain that I was going through at those times. And to see the way that our community reacted to that album and the way that they took it is the same way that it felt for me. Putting it out to them, it was kind of like a sense of relief. Like I got it off my chest, I got it out of my head, and then seeing the support that came from the community from what I was going through, and them talking about how they were going through the same things and had the same like feelings, same thoughts that I was going through, and then them being able to talk that out. That was really like the turning point to where we were like, yo, we have a message, and it's important to our community just as important it is to us for us to get this out.
Yeah, it's crazy too. Like when we start going into like other communities and like they talk about some of their favorite songs, and a lot of them say like it was those songs that we talked about. Like I was close with his brother too, that he lost to suicide, and we made a song before that called "Off the Ledge," and it's basically just a conversation with the two of us, where one is contemplating suicide and the other one's trying to talk him off it. Mm-hmm. Right, and people come up to us and say like the song Black Blood is their favorite song. Yeah. And like people, like the lyrics hit so much, like we've had a fan that actually like tattooed some lyrics like on his forearm, which is like crazy to show like not only it was helping us heal and get over it, it was helping other people heal and let go.
It's like that cliche, but it's real. It's like music is therapy, right?
Yeah, definitely.
And being able to touch people with it, and it's really amazing, right? And I know that like the song you're talking about, it's like it's powerful and it's relatable, right? And you can, which is, and
it's just like it's almost like what we were talking about earlier. Like we had a lot of people to look up to in like American culture in hip hop, but not a whole lot of people in Indigenous cultures and in our that people that look like us growing up. Yeah. So when we make this music. And we make music that's like that you can actually listen to, that's like good, and like you know, and has a message behind it with people that look like them. They can relate to it. Yeah, which like we never had that growing up with the socials at least.
Yeah, because I found too like I have connections to Detroit and I have friends there, and I think that's the one thing is like I think people of color can always kind of relate to each other because there's that level of like you don't have to. You're never worried of like someone questioning, like you can explain like, oh, this is what happened, and they just get it, right? Yeah. With like, white communities are kind of sometimes like, oh, well, that's patronizing, right? Like, oh, well, that's not how it is. And you're like,
well, There's
Yeah.
a community out in West Van, just that actually they had a protest and a rally, and they were marching the streets with signs because a B-Link bus route went through their community. And they said, you guys are bringing these people through our community, and it's dangerous and all this shit. So, so I see what you're saying.
So they didn't like
For
that.
a fucking bus route.
Yeah.
Like,
So
Well, it's kind of like that
Damn.
story I told you guys earlier, right? With the in Ontario, with like the people that are farming the wild rice.
yeah,
right?
yeah.
Got all these people from Toronto, like essentially like protesting. Right? Just the irony of like wow, my property value. I said right, like oh man, that's funny.
Yeah.
Bustling. I love seeing that reaction too, because it's those kind of things. But for me, it was also like that's another thing too that what you just said is like seeing people that look like you and being good, like because there was a history of like, oh man, I used to talk with my a friend of ours too, is Ryan McMahon, and I just kind of talk about some artists, and I'd be like, I sometimes think I'm like, oh man, like are we ever gonna have like hip hop duo, like, or people that are just like good, like, because sometimes I'll hear guys, I'm like, the flow just isn't there, and like, but so for me that's what really like, I got put onto, and I was like, oh, these guys are good, because you guys, like you said, you guys have a really amazing gift, and your lyrics are, I love the lyrics of like, you're talking about First Nation issues, there's First Nation themes, but then also part of me is like, I am First Nation, I wear it, I can't escape it, right? And especially in my role too, I live it, right? I'm working with First Nation people, I'm trying to help them go to school. But also there's more to me than just that too, right?
Yeah, totally.
And that's what I like too, is like how you guys will mix kind of pop culture references or different things in it too, like the Draymond Green line, right? Where it's like, I love that line, because it's like, some people like, they're like, oh, I don't, it's like, you gotta understand, you gotta watch ball and see all this to get it, like kick it, like Draymond. And like Colin was like telling me about that time when he asked you about it, and like he doesn't really follow basketball, right?
Yeah.
And he said you guys put him on to like NBA just from that line, right? And explained it like, well, Draymond kicked someone in the balls in like the NBA finals, like, right? But yeah, and also too, it's like, like Kendrick, like Dr. Dre taught Kendrick, like he said, your voice is your instrument, right? In hip hop, like you are the instrument, and he kind of taught Kendrick to like use his voice as an instrument.
Totally.
And then when you guys, I was when yesterday we were performing live, it's like you guys, the way you guys are able to, your voices, like you kind of have like the little bit more higher pitched one, and it's like, and then you're kind of like a little bit more like a growl, like but like it's like you guys really complement each other well. And like and your flow's there too, and like those are so for me it's kind of like, oh yeah, there's good, it's like there's like we're on the map where someone is
I mean, like that's the way that the rest of the music industry looks at rap too, like, oh, anybody can be a rapper, all you gotta do is have a beat, and then you can just rap. But no, it takes a lot of practice, hard work. Your voice is your instrument, and without being able to without putting that time into your craft, which is being an MC, writer, and rapper, and like performing on wax, on track, like you're not gonna be a good rapper. So it takes practice, just like it does like learning how to like play an instrument, and like finding that voice, finding that sound that you're looking for. It took us like our whole lives to find our sound.
There's like an author that kind of talks about it. It's like you gotta put your 10,000 hours.
Oh,
right?
definitely.
Oh yeah.
So you guys got the new albums coming out. It's called Rez Bangers, and what's the
we changed it. Yeah, It was like the original idea was Rez Bangers and Cool Pops.
Okay. Oh, it's TRAPLINE.
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 Yeah.
Okay. And you guys kind of. So what is your process too when you're making music? Like, are you guys kind of what comes first? Is the beat come first, then the lyrics, or do you guys?
I think
the
the
lyrics
idea,
and then the beat, or
First and foremost, is the idea of what we want to portray on that album, and then like the beats come next. So like finding the beats, and then after we find the beats, or as we're looking for the beats, we find our beats from like internet producers, stuff like that, through like BeatStars, YouTube, whatever like that. And it's a whole process of like the idea comes first, and then as we're looking for beats, we hear a beat, and then the message comes through that. So like if Darren's like, we'll be looking for a beat and we'll wake up in the morning and like it comes. What was that documentary that Lil Wayne had out, where he said like he wakes up in the morning and goes on BeatStars or whatever for 3 hours every morning. Like we took that seriously and we went and like every morning we'd get up and we'd listen to like probably like a couple hundred beats, trying to find what really like talks to us and like the beats that like we like to hear. So we find a beat and then we start like writing to that beat, and if it sounds, if it works out, then we go with it. If not, scrap it. But definitely the idea, and then beats, we find the beats we want and then go from there.
It's a love-hate thing when you look for beats, because like sometimes like
so many whack beats.
the intro like would sound good,
Yeah.
like oh it's gonna go hard, then the drop comes and it's just not there.
Yeah.
You're just like fuck. It's like those big build-ups too, like for 40 seconds to a minute. You're just like, oh, it's coming.
Yeah.
Doesn't, like, fuck.
Yeah, like seriously, like 2 hours every morning, like looking for beats, and we got that like way of thinking through like a Lil Wayne documentary that we watched a while
So you guys
back.
do write down your lyrics, or is it like off like?
Oh,
cheesy, like,
I have
off
to
the
write
dome?
mine down.
Yeah,
Like,
I write mine too.
I
Yeah.
tried to do that for just to, like fuck around and practice.
Yeah.
And like it would start off good, and then I'll lose my direction and just.
Yeah. Like, thing of, like,
And then
my
it just
cadence,
like,
my
and then
cadence.
it's the way Darren raps too is like he's like kind of like Lil Wayne, like he's like punchline heavy.
Yeah.
So like when you're like thinking of punchlines, you can often like your direction goes one way for like what your message wants to be.
Yeah.
But then you just get carried away and your punchline just take you in another
Yeah,
direction.
So it definitely.
It's like even on comedy, right? You gotta
Yeah.
set up everything for the punchline.
Yeah,
and
it's like a
bit.
puzzle, right?
Yeah. And so how is it working together too? So you guys have the idea, and it's a collective idea of like, so when you're saying, all right, this is our idea, and then how do you guys, because you guys, like you said, even voice, sound wise, lyrically wise, you're two different. How do you guys work together to make the song then?
Yeah. So we live on like opposite sides of the city, but we usually like if we find a beat that we like, we like send it to each other.
Yep.
We almost do that like daily when we're looking for beats. Yo, I found this one. Like I fuck with this one. Let me know what you think.
Just send beat packs back and
Yeah.
forth.
And like once we like to agree to which ones, and then we'll start writing. So more often than not, like Q will come to me with an idea. Yo, I got an idea for this one, and like he'll have a verse or a hook written, or vice versa. I'll come with a verse or a hook.
Or we'll send demos back and forth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But like for songs like Clash of the Clans and Northern Lights, that was on the Average Savage, we'll sit down together and literally like spend all night just writing together. So Northern Lights took 3 full tries. Like we wrote 3 songs to that beat, and it wasn't until like the last beat or the last try when we're like, fuck, I don't know if we're gonna be able to get this on the album. The album's coming, the release date's coming up real soon. We finally got it, and we're like, oh yo, this is dope. But yeah, like when they're like kind of like those run the jewels kind of back and forth type flows, like we'll write those together. We'll always be in each other's presence for those.
So what is like, you know, I don't know, like what is like the industry out there for like First Nation hip hop, you know, artists? Is like, is there, you know, because you look at like American, like the hip hop in the States, it's like, you know, you got, it's so, there's, the infrastructure's built already. Is there an infrastructure out there, you
I was
guys? Or
just
are you guys
gonna say, yeah.
Are you guys part of like building that, right? Because like, it is kind of like, do you take do you guys take chances on like the diamond in the rough, right, and bring them up, or because there isn't like, so I kind of look at it too as like, my analogy is like Spike Lee.
Yeah.
Spike Lee is a director. He makes black films. He kind of put, you know, black directors on the map, right? And almost like, and he took a lot of chances and he took a lot of hits for it, but he was kind of almost like that cornerstone to like, you know, there would be no Ryan Coogler or all these other black directors have come, like without no Spike Lee, there would be none of them. And what is like that for like music, for in terms of First Nation people and hip hop?
You know, that I was just gonna say before you brought up all the Spike Lee stuff, I was gonna say that there's nothing really built for us yet. Like it's like people have done it, but like people have done it in different ways. Like not like that, like where they're putting on only their own people. I see people out there commenting on different, like a lot of directors being like, yo, we have so many Indigenous directors, we have so many of this out there, but there's not a whole lot of them doing music videos. So for us, we tried to make this album where it's like only Indigenous directors and stuff like that, and we try to work with some, but like they're like, yeah, well, I haven't done any music videos before, I can kind of do a documentary style, and we try to make it work, but like we're like, you know what, let's just go with people that we know that can make these videos look great. Because right now we're in a place where like this album's gonna put us on the mainstream map, or it's not gonna. And these music videos will really help us put like our music on that next level. So I don't think there's a whole lot of infrastructure built around like the culture that America has versus like culture that like we have as Indigenous people in Canada, like for hip hop. It's not, it's there, but it's only there in our inner circles. And we're seeing like a lot of like rappers from Vancouver blow up right now, like white rappers, black rappers that aren't Indigenous, and they're blowing up because they speak to a body of people that are massive.
Yep.
There's so many white people in Canada. There's so many white people in America, and these guys are like millions of views.
Yeah.
Whereas us, there's what, a million Indigenous people. So like you got to look at like who we're speaking to. Like for us to blow up, say we get like 100,000 views on a track. That's massive for us.
Yeah.
Because there's not that many of us that are listening to our music. So we have to like really build it from the ground up to if we want to like get onto that mainstream level.
And also,
like with that being said, I think the world is finally ready.
Yeah.
For like Indigenous MCs, and not just like music, but like directors, you know, like
Arts.
like political parties. Like I think the world is finally ready, and like that kind of started to happen once like the Idle No More movement hit.
It's that idea of like sovereignty, right? It's like no one is gonna make it for us, right? Because why? Like they don't have any. There's nothing for them to make it for us, right? And I think that's cool. You talk about that arts community because arts is a major influence in everything, right? You look at film, television, all that, and we don't have representation. And I thought of kind of using Spike Lee again, but he won the Oscars. He won an Oscar, and it was like he finally won an Oscar after 30 years, right?
That's crazy.
And
man.
he talked about it, and like for me, like a person of color, I swelled up with pride. I was like, oh, this is awesome. So this is the second time I'm telling you this. I like started to tear up like when he was saying his, talking about his grandma and how, she saved up money, her Social Security, put him through school. And I started to like cry because I thought of like, this is amazing. Like, look at all this work he had to put into, and like all the people behind him to put it, and all the history on the slavery and all that. And he finally got his moment. And then it turned from happiness to sadness and I thought, man, like we're so far from that still, right?
Yeah.
Because he's like, when he won, he's like the house, and so he's shouting out Morehouse. Morehouse College is a black college in the States, and I think of like we don't even have like we starting to have it, but it's like it doesn't exist yet, really, right? We don't have that where there was a little bit of infrastructure so they could slowly build, and so I think for you guys, what you do in the art community, it's like you're building something that's gonna like blow up to much bigger things, or it's going to influence so many other things, right? And like you said, you working with artists like again, hip hop music in the States, you have the artists, and then you guys that make music videos, and you look at those guys that made music videos back then. Now they're like making films, right? Ice Cube's boy, right? He's made the one last Fast and the Furious movie, right? And for you guys, who are some people that you work with or that you're going to continue working on, just so they can get some love too, and so people can be aware of some of the artists that you guys like working with, or guys that are coming up, or people that are coming up that you're just kind of stoked that they're doing what they're doing.
Yeah, definitely. Like my younger cousin's name's Boslin, and he just started making music like 2 years ago, and he reached out to us through like our SoundCloud. And then we saw like just the potential that he had, and like we've kind of supported him ever since. And then a year later, he's like a completely different artist, and he's doing good numbers. He knows how to he has a good team behind him with the marketing, like everything. And like every time like he drops something, me and Q are just like we just shake our head, but like not in a bad way, but just like wow.
Yeah.
Like, that's fucking incredible.
Yeah.
And we have him on the album. We did a couple songs with him. But it's because, like, when we were that age, like, he's young, too, man. Like, and we didn't kind of, like, have that when we were that age. when we wanted to do music, we had nobody to help kind of like talk to
Yeah.
about it, you know?
Mentors.
Yeah. And so whenever we chill with him or kick it with him, or whether he asks, like whenever he asks us questions, like we answer, right?
Yeah.
Honestly.
Yeah.
Answer. And yeah, man, it's dope, man. He has like his own vibe,
Yeah.
you know? He does like makes really fucking good R&B tracks. And he can rap and sing, which is like crazy.
Yeah.
And like just the traction he's getting and how fast it's getting.
Yo, yeah, for real though.
Yeah,
He's
yeah,
good.
No,
he's
it's
good.
cool though. But like that's the thing is like you guys are important because I think you bring validity to Indigenous, like to hip hop music in general, right? You guys, like I said, I keep talking about your guys' flow, the way you guys sound, just the story behind it. Like we need that. We need someone like that to give. I'll give that even like the younger ones, just like, oh man, like you said, I can do that.
Yeah.
Like I can, or then you like, he's like, I want to sing on it. Like make some R&B, like hip hop, mix it, right? And that's cool because that's what we need. We just need as much as we can, right?
Yeah. And as far as filmmakers go, like I said, we have this single off of our album that's gonna come out, and we wanted to work with Indigenous filmmakers like Colin Van Loon. We had an idea for our last song on our up and coming album Trapline, that we were gonna shoot a documentary style film, but we didn't get the funding for it. And another filmmaker I really want to work with goes by the name of Sean Stiller, and I think he's based out of Toronto, Vancouver, but what he wanted to do was he wanted to shoot documentary style as well, because we have so many filmmakers out there, but they're all documentary style filmers, right? Storytellers, exactly, and they're really, really, really good at what they do. So we're trying to like work with people like them and do it kind of like their way, but also we want to do music videos our way too. We have a very like high energy type of sound, and this new album's going to show a lot of that. And you'll know what I mean when the new videos drop. The first one's dropping next Thursday. You'll know what I'm talking about when you see those videos, and that's kind of like what we're going for. But there's artists out there like Rude Gang Entertainment. They won a big grant through Tell a Story Hive, and they're going to be putting videos out as well. So there's a lot of like directors and Indigenous storytellers through film that are up and coming, but we just we're not on the same level as them, or on the same like we're not the same type of artists.
Yeah.
But we do want to work with them. It'll come eventually, you know.
And we just need you guys to get more fan support and more touring and selling out shows, right? Because like a part of that too is like money makes the world. You need money to do all these things, and you guys you guys just need to build have the money to be the ability to do that, right? Because I think for you guys, you probably want to be self-sustained one day where you don't have to worry about grants.
Exactly.
Videos, right? And it's so I guess another question I had for you guys is like, how has quality of life changed for you guys over the past couple of years since you guys started making the albums and started getting more notoriety? Has it been a whirlwind? Do you guys find you guys get a lot of support in Indian country across Canada or North America? Because I seen you guys were down in Cali last week and stuff like that. So what has it kind of been like for you guys in terms of, do you notice much change, I guess?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
It's been wild, man, since actually about maybe about half a year ago, things started picking up for us. And it went from the time that we decided we're going to be full-time musicians to now to really start to see the benefits. And that was 3 years ago, D? About 3 years ago, we decided about 2 years ago, I guess, we decided we're going to be full-time musicians. Yeah. And, it's not an easy transition to go from full-time work into, okay, I'm going to be a musician. Mm-hmm. It's a lot like being a student, to be honest. We got no income coming in, not much, at least when you're first starting out. You're doing shows for $100, stuff like that. So to get through that, we had a lot of support from back home. My brother was constantly sending me wire transfers. His mom's, even till today, still sending wire transfers. Yeah. It was a lot of support from our families back home, and our partners. My girlfriend helped me out a lot in the early stages of us doing this. So it was a collective of different people coming in together to help us really come through all that stuff and shine as artists. Yeah. So we had to get through all that to be able to even be here today. and we're just starting to see the benefits from all that. Like I'm finally out of debt and like living proper.
Yeah.
You know, and like sustaining myself through music, and that took 3 years of grinding, and without the support back home, that wouldn't even been possible.
Yeah, it's been a journey, man. Like, there's some times where like we may get stressed out about like this music and the album, or like getting skits together, or like mixing and mastering, and like we'll just like stress sometimes. But sometimes I just gotta sit back and remind myself, like, man, this is my job.
Yeah.
You know, like I'm blessed to do this. And to be able to say this is my job, because my girlfriend, for example, gets up at 6:30 every morning to go do her job, you know, and so like it's definitely starting to change, and it was really the big shift was probably when we got nominated for Polaris, because like before that we were almost like ready to call it and like
Get like the next album's a make
Yeah.
or break kind of deal.
yeah, and like if this one doesn't work, we got to get a job, you know, like. So, no, man, it's definitely like a slow snowball effect.
Yeah. But now that we're like getting national attention and stuff like that, we're able to like pay our bills on time and like eat regularly. You know, like we've always been able to do that, but you know, like the saying goes,
But
like
it
we're
goes to
eating.
show like you know, for when, you know, for First Nation people, it's like, but it shows that communities too, right? It's
Totally.
like you have support of people, and like, you know, mom's still sending money, like, you know, it's just, there's that connection to family, community, and what you guys are doing is it's amazing, right? It's you guys are, I think, going to be cornerstones of what Indigenous hip hop is in the future, right? They'll talk about like who they'll be like, you know, like they're like the Tupac and Biggie or something like that, right? But like it's true, like, because you get to think like your cousin, he'll be putting on, you know, Native Drake and all that, and then it'll just keep it like a snowball effect, right? You need to start it, and I find that even too with like work I do is like when I first started, you know, we had you know, how many students, and since I've been here for 5 years, like we've grown like, you know, how many times over, right? But it's just that idea of like you gotta just put in the work too, and then and especially when you're working with First Nation people, it has to be genuine too. And that's the thing too with you guys' music, it's genuine. I think that's why it speaks to people, because if it's real, you can feel it. Like I think Native people, we've been screwed over so much, we always have these kind of antennas up, and like you know, you're almost too pessimistic a bit. You're kind of like, I don't know. And so it's kind of like a good gift. You're really aware of like if someone's being real or bullshitting. Right?
And in the past too, a lot of our native MCs are just trying to fit in. You know, like they're not being themselves. Like
they're say that.
Yeah, they're trying to portray like it's like 2000.
What people want to hear.
Like 1990 guys.
Yeah.
That was like 10 years ago.
Like, when we would travel like to communities, we would ask like other MCs, like Indigenous MCs, like what the goals are. They're like, oh, like I want to like just make music that like everybody can enjoy, and then maybe a project or two later down the road then say, hey, like, hey, I'm Native. You know, and we're just like, man, it's kind of fucked up. Like we're being tribes right out the gate, like
honesty.
We're Native.
Honesty,
you know,
like you have to put it out there, like, because like for me too, it's like when you're interact with people, and it's just like for me, like when I go to high schools and I talk to students, like I put it out there. I put out my truth out there because they don't owe anything to me. I'm just some dude that shows up that wants them to come to school, right? And there's like a history of what school has done, and so I'm just brutally honest with them because I want them to know it's real, and that's what the work I've done. I'm starting to see is like these kids, they know I'm real, and they know that I love them, and it's like that reciprocal feeling, right?
Yeah, totally.
And it's not like that whole thing of like, because if I'm not being honest and real, like they're gonna know.
Yeah.
You can if you can spot out who's faking it.
It's
right?
like a bullshit filter.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
It's 100% a bullshit filter because it's if you're like, dog, you can't even be real with me up front. Like what? Like right away, I'm like, all right, like cool. Like I'll listen to whatever you're gonna talk about, but like to be respectful because you're gonna be respectful, but don't think I'm gonna.
To add to that too, like I'm not saying like the natives in the past that are rapping about like dealing drugs and like doing whatever they were doing at the time wasn't real, but it just wasn't relatable to us.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's like it might have been them, but like it's not relatable to the massive Native people across Turtle Island.
Yeah, and like just kind of like people like, oh, how did Drake make it so big? I was like, because he made music relatable to everyone. Like, oh, like my girl cheated on me and I'm all sad about it and all this. Like, it's relatable. But for us, like the things you guys rap about, it's relatable. Like, touching on like what happened to your brother and the suicide. Like that, unfortunately, is a relatable thing in our community. But you were able to use that pain and use music as like a therapy, and it's helping other Indigenous people, like help them through the pain. And someone's stories, like that's our stories. Those are things we relate to, right?
Yeah, it's like.
But also, you guys making a positive out of it.
Yeah,
right?
that's what I was just gonna say is to like take those negatives and make it into a positive. Yeah.
Yeah. Like we said, like, just to touch back on our process of writing, because like I was trying to think about like a process of writing Trapline, but I should actually talk about the process of writing Snotty Nose Rez Kids and The Average Savage, because those were done just so far away. Like when we were doing Snotty Nose Rez Kids, we wanted to get this stuff off our chest. We wanted to get those hurt, those pain, all that stuff off our chest. But we also wanted to show the world how our community is very incredible. Like we wanted to not just show like people what they think our lives are like, but show them how good our lives are like outside of that, the negatives. So like we showed them like on My People how our people uplift us through these things, and how we need our community to even survive, and how we need our lands to survive because our land is who we are. So yeah, that's kind of like that. Yeah.
Yeah, like each album was made at very important times in our lives.
Yep.
And like the first one's a healing tool. Second one, we had a much like clearer headspace, and then Traps had the whole idea for The Average Savage. Yeah. And then I actually remember the very first song we wrote was Savages, and Q sent me the beat. I'm just like, I don't know, bro. He's like, yo, trust me, like I'll show you when you get here. I'm driving from Vancouver to the north.
16 hours.
Yeah. In the springtime, so it was like still snow and shit. But anyway, like I got there and like I'm like, all right, let me see what you got. And he's like, no, I gotta show you this first. And like he got like all these skits from all these cartoons and movies, like Bugs Bunny and all that shit.
There was probably like 20 skits that we cut down to like 4.
All fucking displaying like Indigenous people as savages. That was the main word. Yeah. And all of it. And then they just flipped my fucking world upside down. I was like, what the fuck? Like, where are you going with this? Yeah. And then it's like, all right, now this is what I wrote for Savages. War paint to the sunrise, getting braided up as my paint dries. After you showed me, I was like, I get it. Like, fucking Skoden,
Yeah, it's like using what they portray us as.
Yeah, and the whole idea, the whole idea is
just to shoot back, right?
Yeah,
to flip it over.
And just showing them who we really are through all that bullshit they throw at us. Yeah. Like, you want to call us savage? Well, this is what we actually were. Yeah. This is the savage that you've seen. This is what we were. Yeah. And this is what we still are today. So it was letting them know through all that crap that they throw at us since we're young kids, like watching Disney cartoons and Looney Tunes and stuff like that growing up. This is what we're actually supposed to be, and we're still here.
Now, do you guys find that your audience, is it becoming more diverse, your audience, or is it like, are you starting to get a mixture?
Slowly but surely.
Well, the last show we played in Calgary, it was like there was probably like a handful of, like, even when we were actually in we played a show at Stanford last week. Yep. There was probably like 10 natives and the rest were all white people. Yeah. And then we did a show in Calgary, same thing. Yeah. But like it's always like good vibes when we do shows.
Is it weird though too, a little bit at first?
At first it was just like, okay, I don't know what to expect, but then Dee can explain the vibe.
Yeah. So it's like whenever it's somebody that, or like a group of people that haven't been to one of our shows and haven't heard us at all, we make sure like our opening songs capture their attention, because 10 times out of 10 people just stand there and kind of like, let me see what you got. Yeah. A couple songs in, they'd be like, oh shit.
Yeah, they just want to know what we're talking about.
And then or what the people after our opening songs, and then we kind of talk and introduce ourselves, like, oh, okay, like, yo, these guys are dope. It's always like that. Like, it never fucking fails. And yeah, man, it's at the more diverse crowds, especially like when it's more non-Indigenous. Yeah. Like, natives will come up to us and be like, yo, bro, like, dope set. You killed it. I love
Together.
you guys. I love what you're doing.
Just kind of like yesterday, I came up
Yeah.
like, oh man, love you guys.
And then there's like the non-Indigenous that come up to us. They shake our hands and be like, "Thank you."
Like they needed it.
Yeah.
But it's good though. It's
Yeah,
good.
it's like we
Yeah.
showed them a whole new fucking
Yeah.
world.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
like, thank you.
And it was
Yeah.
like we weren't like D always says, we're preaching our shit, but we're giving them a show at the same time,
Yeah.
and we're letting them know who we are and where we're coming from, and not in a negative way either.
Yeah.
So it's
And-
all positive.
And I think what it is too, it's kind of like, it's that storytelling aspect, because I think that is something is missing from a lot of hip hop in mainstream music now, right? You got the SoundCloud rappers, like where the production has moved so much where before artists were always like, I need to be a good lyricist, like, cause like that's my instrument. But now these beats, they come out with some of these crazy beats where they don't even care about the lyric, like
For real.
you got like Gucci gang, Gucci gang, Gucci gang. Like it's like this
Yeah.
just repetitive and
Sounds.
It's just sounds, but like even me, like I'll listen to it because
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
catchy.
exactly.
But at the end of the day, it's like, what was the message behind
Yeah.
it? I mean, I got a pair of Gucci flip flops. Like that's about it. Like,
I guess I get it.
Like, I can relate, but I think people recognize that, right? They're going, and I think for you guys, I think it is going to be more and more, mainstream population are going to come on to you guys because it's like realness again kind of shines through. And it's
Yeah.
like, yeah, you guys have the ability to tell stories. You're able to like go through your lyrics, but also like it's everything that's coming together.
It's about longevity, right?
Yeah.
Like when you do songs like Gucci Gang, for example, like that's kind of like a short wave.
Yeah.
Like you're not going to listen to Gucci Gang 10 years from now.
Well, even
You
now,
know?
like
Yeah.
it's been
Yeah,
it's
like
been a
I
year
brought
and-
it up. You guys were like, "What?" That's
Yeah, like those kind of like SoundCloud rappers, stuff like that. It's a wave, and it's
Yeah.
like people are on it right now.
It's
but
almost-
they'll fall off it because it'll go down.
And it's I think like it's the social media effect, right? Too.
Yeah.
It's just that instant access. So like, let's just drop something like real
Yeah.
quick, right? And I think that's cool for you guys. Is like it's still building an album, right? Because even artists now they don't even really work that way anymore,
Yeah.
right? I'll just drop a single here, just drop a single here, just drop a
Yeah.
single
Yeah.
here. And it's not put in that work of creating like that. Those days of when you were young, right? You listen to album start, song, finish.
Mm-hmm.
Again, like and it's like artists used to like build their albums off of that, right? It's like telling a
Yeah.
story, like, oh, hit this point, we're gonna
Yeah,
build it.
that's how we build it too.
And then now it's just like it's so like hip hop music is like, all right, what's this gonna be the single off the album, and that's it, and
Yeah.
there is not work put into those other songs, right?
Mm-hmm. And like the same thing with us too. Like when we're I forgot what I was gonna say there. My mind just went blank because you carried on something else. Yeah. So like when we're building an album, we understand where hip hop is going in terms of like it's a single. It's like people want to hear singles. People want to hear what's hot right now. So we've caught attention to that, and we're paying attention to all those little trends that are going on in the social media world and all that kind of stuff, which is the hip hop world, I guess.
Yeah.
And we've incorporated that into our own sounds. So like we like one of our favorite artists out right now, I like say like Brockhampton, and their sounds that they're putting out are like next level. It's like almost like futuristic kind of sounds. So we're like kind of putting that into our music as well, but we have the message behind it. It's not just like a fad. It's not like a fad.
Yeah, and it's also like not being so literal about it, and like we've come up with like more clever ways to say something, or like whatever message we're talking about, and it's you're gonna hear a lot of growth for both of us as artists.
Yeah, and like on this next album, there's a lot of hidden messages. So like we're still, like you said, Rez Bangers and Cool Pops. That was the name of our album, and it was supposed to be a fun album. It was supposed to be something that everyone can relate to from all different kind of ethnic backgrounds, and that's what TRAPLINE is. But the message is way more powerful than what Rez Bangers and Cool Pops was ever supposed to be. And on top of that, we kind of just like we have a lot of hidden messages.
Yeah.
So if you're Indigenous, you'll understand it, and if you're not Indigenous, you will understand it. You know what I mean?
Okay, that's cool. So what made that change though from like making the for Rez Bangers Cool Pops to TRAPLINE? Was there like
just the amount of time it took to put it out. Like Rez Bangers and Cool Pops was supposed to be before festival season last year, and we got together with a record label at the time. We're not in that record label anymore. We just got out of it, but they wanted us to put it out later and market it properly, which we still have done. And the amount of time that it took from the time we finished Rez Bangers and Cool Pops until right now, it's going to come out in April, was just so much time for us to really reflect on that album and what we wanted it to be, that we were like, we wanted it to be bigger than just, the time passed for it to release.
So did you scrap the entire album then?
We scrapped most of it, and we took some songs from it that we had written back then. So it was just like the time that we had to reflect on it, and the time period that we were supposed to release it, it didn't line up.
Yeah.
So we just thought, okay, let's just go with something else. Let's just make this bigger than it was supposed to be.
And like, definitely like some of the studio sessions that we had too, that was kind of like the turning point for TRAPLINE. We recorded this out in Toronto, out in Sandbox Studios with this engineer named KR Moore. And like, he just kind of helped us take our sound and like just our skill to the next level. Like, we've worked with engineers before, but most of them are kind of just like hit record.
He was more of a executive producer type deal.
Like, we'd have a line to go, like, say it like this. I'm like, oh shit, okay. And like, man, those sessions are like magical. And like, when it comes to the albums, and I listen to the final product,
You're like happy?
definitely happy, and like, it takes me back to those studio sessions. Like, I remember fucking recording this. Like, every time I listen to our own stuff, it's like, man, I remember this studio session. That was dope.
And did you guys say you felt like you grew during
Oh,
these
definitely.
these
He's like,
sessions?
he was like a, like the Phil Jackson to us.
Yeah.
You know, like,
Yeah.
definitely, like,
Get in your head a little
showed
bit.
us the
like,
triangle, and it was game over. You know, like,
Was there pushback though at first when you guys were doing it, or were you guys kind of like just open? Like,
We knew
all
what we
right?
were getting into. Like, we
Yeah.
were working with a group called The Sorority out of Toronto. Do you know who they are? No. They're an all-female act. There's a group of 3 of them, and they are beasts on the mic. They're like insane. But our manager's their manager, so we got connected to KR through them.
Yeah.
And we knew what we were getting ourselves into. We knew the kind of person he was, and we were excited to work with him from the time we heard about him.
yeah, and with the sorority, man, like, they're so fucking talented. Like, they're not just like some of the best female MCs, but MCs, period. You know, like, and we're so fucking happy and blessed that they were down to be a part of our album.
Yeah. And like you said, that art community, right? You guys are.
Totally.
Yeah. So kind of like we're be kind of wrapping up, but like, what are, besides music, what are other kind of pursuits or passions you guys got going for you? And it's going to kind of allude to like, you guys are kind of the, you know, publicly imposed brand ambassadors to like Section 35, like, and you guys have a cool look about yourselves. Like when yesterday when we were at the event, you guys walked in and like oh, it was like, you know, like, how would I explain it? So I have a friend, his name's Logan Stotts, and he's been to the college, and he was on the show, right, the launch. But I remember when he used to come, we used to bring him in before he, you know, when he was just like, he used to go around like at these booths and be like, oh, I'm an artist, I was like, you know, want to perform, and I was like, this dude's so talented, I'm just going to get him here. And I used to tell him like, you're going to hit it, man, because like, not only do you have the talent, but you got the look too.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of the same thing for you guys. Like, you guys have the talent, you can see it, but you also have the look too. And I think that is like that kind of package deal. Like, you know,
Totally. Like, especially with like social media and having so many people looking at you all the time. Like, we worked at a Sandbox, and the owner of Sandbox actually told us like exactly what you just said. She's like, you guys have the sound. There's a lot of native MCs that I know that are really, really good, but you guys have the look, and you guys have the whole package deal, and people are ready for that.
Yeah. They thought we were R&B singers, friend.
It's like, no, man, we're in a boy band.
No, it's cool, and like it's like that comes with like hip hop music. It's like that swagger, right? Yeah. Like hip hop has influenced style like no other, right? In mainstream style,
yeah.
Right? You got these, and I even like, for me, like growing up, like I was like it's kind of hard to say right now because he's a little crazy, but like Kanye, man, like Kanye was. I remember College Dropout came out, and like God. I was like, and I was small town, so no one listened to, like, that was the thing. I was like a border kid, influenced by like hip hop and everything, but I was like from a small hick town where it was like this bump country music, and like classic rock, and then I would be on the school bus listening to Kanye West, and people would be like, clown me like, what are you listening to, like Kanye West, and then like, you know, like, guy wears pink polos, you know, but like he influenced me so much in terms of my style and everything too.
Yeah.
And and I think it's a look, right? It's
Kanye
a cool look.
influenced everyone though.
Yeah. And
His
like,
sound, his image.
and it's kind of sad he's gotten a little crazy, but like it's like, to me, like my like hip hop god is like Kanye,
Me too.
because it's like,
that Jay-Z and Watch the Throne, like that was probably my favorite album.
did you see it live?
I did. I seen
So
it live in Vancouver.
you were at the 13 songs at the
13
end.
sons in a row. Yeah. It was insane. It was
I mean,
insane. I was
I-
front row. I touched Kanye's and Jay-Z's hand.
Yeah.
And my brother was right beside me when we flew out to Vancouver for this.
Yeah.
And Jay-Z rapped a whole verse into my brother's phone, like,
Yeah.
because we were going so ham.
Yeah.
Like, I knew all the lyrics, everything.
Yeah.
And Jay-Z like looked down and rapped a whole verse into
Yeah.
my brother's camera phone.
Yeah, I'm getting so giddy right now.
It was
like,
insane.
because me and my boy went to go to the Detroit show, and that's like we heard like they did this many times, and so what everyone doesn't know, there's a song that they came out with. I don't even know how would I say it. Like it's Blank in Paris.
Yeah, that's what it was.
And so that was their encore song. And they would just kind of be like, repeat it, and then
again,
and like everyone like, and they're like, so they play the same song over and over again. It's like, yeah, but you don't understand. Like, you had to be there because you had to be. It was like electrifying.
Oh,
It's just
yeah.
like, again,
because
and,
everyone
like,
knows lyrics too.
Yeah, and so they at the Detroit show, they at that point in time it was their most, because they went to Chicago the next night, and that's when they did it way longer. But they did it like 7 or 8 times in the Detroit show.
Yeah, Vancouver
And
they did it a lot. It was the last show.
I think it was like 13
Yeah.
because I remember like I seen Vancouver. I was like, how many times are they gonna do it? And like, you know, it was kind of like the days when social media was like, it was becoming bigger, but it wasn't what it was now.
Yeah.
And like you'd have to look on YouTube like how many times was it played, and like you seen like the 13 times. But yeah, for me it's like it's that love of like that album.
Yeah.
Watch the Throne is like.
I was front row, right on the side stage, and it was at Rogers Center at the time, and it was like way back against the boards. There was a group of girls sitting there, and when I was walking out, me and my brother were like just so proud. Walking back, and then like jumped over the boards, whatever, and then those girls were like, "Yo, you guys were going hard as hell." I was like, "You guys," and they seen us that far away, like. And it's a big group of people at the front stage, and me and my brother stood out to them from how hard we were going to that show. But those are like 2 of my favorite artists, though.
Yeah,
so.
I'm not trying to like one up you or anything, but like
Here it goes, bro.
so the section we were like, I didn't get to be that close, but the section we were, the row, like, you know, I think people were just like, they just left, like they just like, I don't really want to stay for this. So we had the whole row empty, so it was just me and my boy, and we went ham, like that whole like go like just go like that the whole time, but like back and forth and stuff, and like people were getting like hyped for us, and so like that's people like what like if they ask me the question of like what's like your biggest like memory of like concert, it'd be like Watch the Throne. It's like still to this day the greatest concert I've ever seen.
Oh, just a top, but Good Kid, Mad City in Pemberton. Kendrick came out to the first show back in Pemberton, which is like a massive music festival. I seen Outkast there, I seen J. Cole there, I seen Kendrick there, I seen like insane amount of talent at that festival. But at the Kendrick show was my first festival ever, first set I've ever seen at a festival, and yeah,
I'm so excited.
Yo, I had people around me, dude, and I forget what song it was, but I was chanting the lyrics around, and like there was probably like a mosh pit around me, like it was like a circle, but like no one was in it. I was just in the middle, and I'd chant lyric, and then everyone chanted back, and then I was like on the big screen, and they were like recording me doing this shit. And I was like, yo, like, I was like, everyone's like, yo, I seen you on the big screen, man. But yeah, like, I had like a whole bunch of people around me just doing it. Like, it felt like it was my show at that moment, man.
All right.
I remember when he did the Life of Pablo tour, and he stopped in Vancouver. Like, my cousin called me up. He's like, yo, bro, like, it's like 8:30. He's like, yo, bro, like, want to go see Kanye? I'm like, fuck yeah, I want to go see Kanye.
Yeah.
Because, like, me and him originally, when he did the Yeezus tour in 2013. He got to Vancouver, then he canceled it, right?
Yeah.
So I was kind of still holding a grudge against Kanye.
Yeah.
For them. Then that tour came. Yo, you want to go to Kanye? I'm like, fuck yeah, I want to go to Kanye. Yeah. So we got lucky. We got like scalpers tickets. Probably like around 9.
Yeah.
So like we get there. We had some like good seats. Like if you're in the hockey arena, it's like right by the boards.
Yep.
Yeah, and that tour he had like the floating stage.
Oh yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And we got there, and like 2 minutes after we get to our seats, like the show starts.
Yeah.
And then like that was like my first show that I knew every song to.
Yeah.
And like I remember at one point I would just start singing, and like this random dude next to me, we started singing together. We put our arms around each other and just dancing and like, everything, man. My cousin Harry just kind of sitting there laughing, but I'm just going
real
fucking
stoked.
ham.
Like,
Yeah. No, that was probably like one of my favorite concerts today.
And that was the Pablo?
Yeah.
Yeah. I went to the Yeezus one tour. Like and that's the crazy thing people forget. Kendrick opened for that tour.
Yeah.
Kendrick's probably the big reason why we bought tickets for that.
Yeah. And then, but this is kind of full, like, karma or whatever. So Kanye was doing 2 shows in Detroit. He was doing one at Joe Louis, which is the old hockey arena, and then one at Palace. So me and my boy were like, we're not going to Joe Louis one because, like, this just sucks seeing concerts there because it's like the seats are so tight and all that. So we'll wait for the one when he comes back a month later. So we had the tickets for that. And that was the tour when he kind of went off the rails. Yeah. And so we didn't get to go see. They canceled the show we went to. But yeah, Kanye is like the dude. Yeah. Last kind of like my story of like not like we were like one-upping each other, but another probably my favorite second concert was Jay-Z and Eminem did the Home and Home tour. So they did 2 shows in Detroit and 2 shows in New York. So
Jesus.
and it was literally, I had like my one friend, and I came home from school and I hit up my one friend. It was just the day of, and I told her, I was like, yo, do you want to go to this concert? She's like, yeah. I was like, I'll just get scalp tickets right now. And like, but it was StubHub, so it was still, we went there. Yeah. And like, Watch the Throne is still number 1, but this is like a close second. And like that excitement, that electricity. Who they'll bring out? So Eminem, or I'm trying to think. So Jay-Z brought out Memphis Bleak, like he always does. Yeah. Young Jeezy. And I think those are the only 2 he brought out. Then Eminem brought out 50 Cent. And B.O.B. opened that because Eminem and B.O.B. had that
single.
Yeah. But the one was like, Eminem's like, because when it was going to be there. And he was like, what song is it? It's like Dr. Dre's dead. He's locked in my basement. What song is that one? Dr. Dre's dead.
Real Slim Shady.
Yeah, he's like, he's like, Dr. Dre's dead. He's locked in my basement. Lights went off, and it's like you hear, it's like do 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 do, and it's like, and it's not like a heartbeat. It's like the hydraulic, like, and then it's like everyone's like, oh, what's happening? What's happening? And then next thing you see like these spotlights go in the center and like smoke's there, and then you just see an image coming up and it's Dr. Dre, and then Eminem and Dr. Dre performed like 3 songs, and it was like, Jesus. It was and the thing, it was an outdoor concert, so if there was like a roof, it just would have been blown off at that moment.
Crazy.
Yeah.
That's wild. Fuck. I'm trying to picture it right now, bro. Damn.
Have you ever seen Childish Gambino perform?
Yes.
What was it? His last tour?
No, it was. I seen Childish Gambino when it was Campfire.
Oh shit! A while ago.
So I was been on to like Childish Gambino for a while, but I seen the Campfire.
Probably my favorite show. Like, and it's not even like. Yeah, like that was probably like one of my favorite shows of all time, and like the amount of talent that guy has is next level. Yeah. Me and Darren actually I forget where we were getting back from. He never came with me, but our DJ was hit up from Childish Gambino's stage or from his tour manager, and we were given guest tickets. So we got 6 tickets right beside the stage to see him and Ray Sherman. Yeah. And those 2, that duo is like, man, like I never knew what to expect, but those are probably 2 of my favorite performers now. Yeah. And they were opening for Childish Gambino.
I seen those 2. They opened for The Weeknd. And I
Oh,
went to
yeah,
see
yeah.
it, and like I was kind of the same thing. I was like, Range, and after that concert, I was like, I love these guys.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
One of them, I think it was Sway. He was running around on the hockey boards and like singing and stuff, and he had like mobs of people around him, and then he went and jumped up in his speakers, and then he was running across, rapping, and he falls through and like cracks his ribs on his speaker,
my God.
rolls off, and then I think his cousin started rapping, and then he runs and jumps up on the stage, does like a flip, lands on his back, and then lands on his feet and starts rapping again. I was like, what?
Yeah.
But they're also like this tall, so it's
Yeah, they're like real little.
if that was me, I would have been done.
Yeah. No, I think that's kind of it. Like, I think we kind of hit everything. I just like thanks for coming in. Like, we really appreciate it. Just like tell everyone where to find you guys. Anything information people may need to know.
Yeah, we got a new album coming out. It's called TRAPLINE. It's coming out in April. Or what?
May.
Oh yeah, May. My bad. No, single's coming out in April. Okay. So yeah, new single coming out next Thursday. So
22nd.
March 22nd. I thought it was 21st.
Double check.
Anyways, new single coming out next Thursday, and then another single following that the following month. Yeah. And then album coming out in May, along with a tour. We're doing a North American / European tour.
Yeah. Are you guys coming to London?
It's not in the tour schedule yet, but we'll see how the turnout is tomorrow night.
And when's that tour? Like, when does it run?
It's May through June. And that's part 1. So like we still have filler spots and stuff like that. Then we'll do a part 2 later on.
Okay. Yeah. All the social media is Snotty Nose Rez Kids.
Yeah.
Not hard to miss.
Okay, awesome. Thanks, guys. I appreciate it. One last question. Would you guys want to come back, do a performance here at Fanshawe?
Yeah, hell yeah.
All right.
Fanshawe all the way, baby.
Bring Fanshawe back.
All right, thanks, boys. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having us, man.